Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor. Now it's time for your weekend tech tip, brought to you by Chevy Silverado.
I think the best way to start out this Chevy Silverado tech tip is to pick up right where we left off. We talked about the difference between shooting broadheads and field points. Can you elaborate a little bit on why a broadhead, either it be what you're shooting or any of the thousands it seems like that there's that's out there these days? I mean, some really weird stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, really. If you go look at some of the broadheads that they have available now, if you've been doing this for any amount of time, you're going to look at these things like, what in the heck is this? Solid? Anyway, why does that make a difference, and why does it help maybe point out if a bow's out of tune more so than what a field point would do?
Right. So first of all, a broadhead on the front of your arrow is like a steering wheel. Okay. A field point has no wind resistance. It just flies. You know, it's a solid piece. When you start putting blades on there, it's again like a steering wheel on the front of your arrow. So if your arrow's coming off your bow maybe a little sideways, maybe a little pointed down, it's just going to magnify that with the broadhead. And so that's why your field points are hitting okay. But if your bow's out of tune, or if the shooter's out of tune, and you put a broadhead, a steering wheel on the front of your arrow, they're going to be all over the place. So definitely, if that's your issue, it's a really simple fix. It just comes back down to tuning, and then making sure you're shooting good straight arrows, you know, for the most part. And then, you know, find a broadhead that you feel confident with. And, you know, we can't say enough good things about that Green Reaper. It's just, it's money every time.
It does. For me, I agree, because it shoots.
Yeah.
It's much more magnified than a field point, okay, just to be honest, but it absolutely flies exactly where it's supposed to fly if you do your job. It's that simple. It always leads to the conversation now that Oregon, you know, taking 20 some odd years to go ahead and do what we've been asking to do. Why it takes, it's ridiculous. But lighted nocks, that's a whole other thing. Some like them, some don't. But expandables or fixed.
I prefer fixed.
That comes up all the time. You know, you're an elk hunter. Everything that we do is wrapped around elk hunting. And if you happen to shoot a deer or anything else that you have the opportunity to hunt, that's different. Okay, an elk and a bear are not the same animal. An elk and a deer are not the same animal. So it all falls down to your comfort level with a field point and elk. That's it.
Yeah.
No expandables.
Well, we don't care for them for elk, but
not many people do.
I'm not saying they don't work. I've seen elk killed with them.
Absolutely.
I've also seen a good shot with every type of broadhead you can imagine not work out.
Right.
So, you know, you can't blame the broadhead. It's really shot placement.
Sure.
I feel like expandables are maybe for guys that feel like, oh, I don't want to tune my bow. It's supposed to fly like a field point.
That was my next point, was that you might think it's an easy fix for bad form or a bow that might be a little bit out of tune. Right. And that very well could be true. But in the end, you owe it to the animals that you're chasing to be the best that you can be. Now, either that be an expandable or a fixed, again, that falls down, that's up to you.
Yeah,
but guys that kill elk for a living, okay, they're shooting regular broadheads at all times.
Fixed blades for decades.
Yeah.
And they just became legal, the expandables, in the last few years. And some people jumped on that bus, and that's fine. Again, I'm not saying they don't work. I just know that a fixed broadhead is tougher. It's less moving parts on the front of your broadhead. I want a solid fixed blade that doesn't have anything, you know, wiggly or loose on it. So
sure.
That's just my opinion.
And they don't open up mid-flight.
Right, yeah, it's standard. It's
Everything stays the same.
It's like shooting a razor-sharp field point is what it's like.
It really is.
This is awesome.
Now, I've taken 3 deer now with expandables.
Yeah.
I carry one expandable. It's the very first arrow on my quiver. If I have an opportunity to deer, that's the one that I grab. If we're elk hunting, we knock arrows or whatever gets set up on elk, it is a fixed, or excuse me, a regular, old school.
Yeah.
Just a blade on the end.
That's what I prefer.
Okay, so scouting, right? That's the next step. I've got friends that are right now leaving this next week, this upcoming week, to go out and start their first scout. One in particular is going to be going to a spot that he ain't never been before.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that, and how may someone break that down and not yet screw things up when they get out there?
Right, good point. Yeah, so scouting, obviously super important. The more familiar you are with your area, you know, your odds go up. You learn how to travel better, all that stuff. Maps are great. Onyx is amazing. All that, you know, all the resources we have available to scout from home when you're hunting on the other side of the state.
Sure.
Before you go over there, you got an idea what you're doing, you know, how the road systems lie, where the trails are. There's no substitute for boots on the ground. We were talking earlier, you know, I've saw spots that looked incredible on my map, and they have to be there. And I go there, and once I get in there, the terrain's wrong, the brush is wrong. It's not what you thought it was going to be. And then I've had other spots from the map that it looked good, and I got there, and it was good. So there's no substitute for boots on the ground. Scout as much as possible. That being said, I like to go super low impact scouting. I don't want to. For me, on the coast, I know which canyons the elk live in. I've hunted it for years now in the same areas. I don't need to go in there and scout anymore. I just need to know where in the canyon they are, and I can find that out in one day of hunting. So I know where they live. So when I go in there and scout, I try to not call at all. I'd never blow my calls in the summer or in August when I get itchy to start talking to elk. I'll go to areas I'm not going to hunt to blow my calls.
Sure.
But where I'm going to hunt, I want to have zero impact, like I'm not even there. But yeah, the more time you can spend scouting, the more you learn about your area, the way better off you're going to be. So
let's just say that somebody has that option to go maybe hunt a unit that they've never put in for, or they've been trying to for years, but yet have never put their feet on the ground.
Right.
When is it too early to go scouting? And maybe even to add on to that, when is it too late to go scouting?
I don't feel like it's ever too early or too late to scout. You can learn something any time of year about your area, you know, whether it's the winter, if you're seeing, you know, if you're in a typical winter range on the east side, you know, where do those bulls go when it snows? What do they do? But you can never scout too early. You can never scout enough. You know, it's like fishing. You know, knowing the Wilson River as good as I do, I can fish it at high water, low water, rain, sun, whatever. I kind of know different spots are good in different conditions, and the woods are the same way. So once you kind of get an area, if you've never been there, try to get out there as much as possible. Use your glasses. You know, I don't do a lot of, when I scout, I'm using my ears, I'm using my eyes for sign. I don't need to see an animal. I need to see sign. I need to know they live there. And so look for sign, you know, activity. You can tell if you're not seeing big giant elk trails and last year's rubs, you're probably not in the right spot.
Gotcha.
So
that's a good point.
Stuff to look for.
A lot like fishing. It's hard to catch a fish if they ain't in the area that you're fishing in.
Exactly.
Yeah. Although I find myself hanging out in those spots way too often. Okay, I want to save a little bit of time here. I want to talk calling when we come back, because there have been things that you've noticed in the last handful of years. We've talked about it a little bit in the past here on GPS, but when we come back, we've got Bugling Bob for a reason. We're going to talk about calling and even some options on how you can become better at being an elk caller, which is very important. We'll be back to that in just a minute.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Yakima Bait, steeped in tradition, innovation, and fishing success. Procure Bait Sense, ruthlessly effective. And by North American Metals Incorporated, first choice for all your metal roofing and siding needs.